More money for roads, military, education, and childcare. That's according to President Obama's newly revealed 2016 budget plan. The proposed increase in next year's budget includes more taxes for the nation's wealthiest Americans. Chief White House correspondent Susanne LaFrankie has more tonight. Suzanne?
Well, Wyatt, the budget battles are heating up. President Obama wants to tax the wealthy and businesses to pay for $74 million more in domestic programs. And as you can imagine, that's sparking pushback among Republicans who now control Congress.
Copies of the $4 trillion budget arrived early this morning to Capitol Hill. Obama is calling for higher taxes on the wealthy and corporations to pay for education, public works projects, and child care. Today, the president said his proposal is aimed at helping low and middle income families by taxing the wealthy.
The budget that Congress now has in its hands is built on those values. It helps working families' paychecks go farther by treating things like paid sick leave and child care as the economic priorities that they are.
The proposal offers nearly $300 billion in tax cuts for mainly the middle class. The centerpiece of the president's tax proposal increases the tax rate on couples earning over $500,000 from 23.8% to 28%. Obama is also calling on an increase in inheritance taxes and imposing a tax on 100 financial companies worth more than $50 billion. The billions generated from those tax increases translate into tax breaks for the middle class, including up to a $500 tax credit and a boost in a child care tax credit, up to $3,000 per child. Money for education is also included. The White House is also calling for a $38 billion increase for the Pentagon.
It supports our troops and strengthens our border security. And it gives us the resources to confront global challenges, from ISIL to Russian aggression.
Republicans insist they are the true supporters of the middle class, not Obama or Democrats.
Expanding opportunity, protecting middle class savings, holding government accountable. These are your priorities.
House Speaker John Boehner says the Obama budget is advocating more spending, more taxes, and more debt. The GOP wants to focus on revamping the tax code and is expected to introduce a budget of its own before April 15th. Expect a long, drawn-out battle. Wyatt?
Susanne LaFrankie at the White House, thanks very much. James Capretta is a former Associate Director for the White House Office of Management and Budget. He's also a Senior Fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center. So, Jim, you've looked at the president's budget. He says he's raising taxes in order to help working families, but what has gone into the budget? What do you think really is a reflection of the values in this budget?
Well, there's certainly a debate underway right now between the president and his party and the Republicans in Congress about how to help the middle class and lower class get better job opportunities. The president wants to raise a lot more revenue and spend it on a lot more federal programs, including some things like training and infrastructure. Republicans are trying to emphasize more the private economy, how to grow jobs in the private sector, business growth, et cetera. And so there's a debate. What's going to work better to actually promote growth in the country, especially for people that have been struggling for the last decade or so, really longer, 20 years, with stagnant wages.
And like we've been seeing, a lot of those programs are domestic-oriented. What do you think is the motivation for the president in trying to expand the domestic government program specifically?
Well, in some ways, I think the president's trying to frame up a debate about the 2016 presidential election. A lot of people have already said, and I think rightly so, that some of these ideas aren't likely to make it through the most Republican Congress in a long, long time, decades. So he's proposing a lot more governmental activism at a time when a Congress is probably unlikely to take them up and pass them. So really, I think what he's doing is trying to frame up an argument for a political debate that goes into the 2016 presidential race about what will promote growth and prosperity going forward. He's trying to protect his legacy and move the country more in his direction.
Okay, and there certainly is a lot in this budget. Are there any red flags for Catholics, especially as you look at that in terms of Catholic values?
Well, there's always, as part of this president's budget, things that we would find objectionable. There are things like funding for family planning through Planned Parenthood, through the family planning programs. There's funding for abortion overseas. There's funding for, of course, through the health care program, abortion and required contraceptive services in health insurance plans, including those offered by Catholic employers. So there's lots of things that violate our sense of what's right and wrong in that area. But on the other hand, of course, there's lots of programs that Catholics that are worried about the poor and access for immigrants and others to needed social services. They do expand many of those things in this budget, which I think a lot of Catholics would find favorable.
One last thing, do you think this budget provides any opportunities to work with Republicans?
The president is proposed a defense spending increase. I think the defense budget is one place where the Republicans and Democrats both agree it's gone too low. There's a lot of threats in the world today. The budget now is going down to levels we haven't seen really since prior to World War II. So it's a very, very low federal budget for defense, and both parties want to undo that. I think also in infrastructure, building roads and bridges and our airports, there could be some agreement around that.
Okay, well, we'll be watching to see how this plays out. Certainly a lot of politics that will be talked about throughout the rest of this year. James Capretta, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.